Last night I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I wanted to shout out my new friend Jason Thompson. He is a saxophonist who plays with his band Frog and Toad on Monday nights at Babalu in Knoxville, Tennessee. Catch him every Monday from 7 to 9, so just plugging my buddy there. But it's kind of got me thinking about the saxophone.
All right.
Specifically the guy who invented it.
The horniest man on earth.
I mean... So, I started looking into it. It turns out the man who invented the sax is a classic Goods from the Woods character in ways that will become clear.
A psychopath?
Absolute maniac.
Well, I think there's two choices for classic Goods characters, psychos and idiots. And
the inventor of the saxophone is one of these two things.
Yeah. So, first of all, his name is Antoine Joseph Sax.
Mm-hmm. Named it after himself. I like it.
Hell yeah. Well, not just that one instrument. He named a bunch of shit after himself. He was born on November 18th, 1814 in Dinant in what is today Belgium. At the time was part of the French Empire. And he was the oldest of 11 children. From an early age, he would always be referred to as Adolphe.
Favorite son.
Yep. So he always went by Adolphe Sax. Antoine's out of there. He's Adolphe now. And his father was a carpenter who also built musical instruments. Now, what I'm about to read makes it seem like God did not want the saxophone to happen. When Sax
Take
was...
that, John Coltrane.
I mean, he just was like, this is bad news.
Kitty, G.
So
2 times Charlie.
God hates sax.
Yes. So when Sax was 3, he fell down 3 flights of stairs and landed on his head on a stone floor, and his family thought he was dead. He had a huge gash on his head, but it turns out he was just in a coma for a week. And he couldn't.
1817 coma.
Yeah.
That's like.
I don't think they knew what coma was. They were just like, we'll see if he wakes up.
Oh yeah,
he's in pain sleep, and we'll go get a doctor to chop his head off.
He's asleep. He hasn't woken up in 2 days. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it is shit like this is the reason that the phrase dead ringer exists. That you literally used to bury people with a string that went down to the coffin and a bell at the top. So if you woke up and you were not dead, you could ring the bell.
Yeah, kicking that foot. They used to tie it to the toe.
Yep.
You get to twitching. And like, oh, dig him up.
So he wakes up from it. He really couldn't stand up straight for the rest of his life. Later the same year, he was in his dad's workshop and he's still 3 as far as I know, or maybe 4. He sees what he thinks is a bowl of milk and drinks all of it. His dad, by the way, a carpenter, so it turns out it was actually acidic water that he used to treat wood. So he drank a bowl of acid.
Jesus Christ.
And lived. At some point, he also swallowed a large sewing needle, which had to be extracted by a doctor.
Is he a classic Woods
I was like, this
character,
is
or is he just like
the dumbest kid
Godfather
ever?
of Jackass?
I mean, yeah.
like a Job-esque, everything going wrong.
And he's not even 10 yet.
Hello, I am Adolphe Sax, and this is alkaline water.
He also nearly died when he accidentally poisoned and nearly asphyxiated himself when he fell asleep in his father's workshop where varnished furniture was drying. This happened 3 times in his early life.
Yeah, that's not an accident. That dude was just the original huffer. This dude invented a lot of shit. Invented Jackass, the saxophone, huffing.
Suicidal sax.
He's laying in his dad's lacquer studio.
Also, it's kind of on the dad at that point. Like, lock it up, you know?
Fell asleep. That motherfucker passed out at
Yeah.
there. He didn't fall a fucking
Yeah,
asleep.
yeah. Yeah, it feels so good in daddy's shop.
Got a sweepy.
Yeah. He when he turned 10, he celebrated his 10th birthday by falling onto a red-hot cast-iron frying pan and catching a side of his body on fire.
This kid is just like, he's Mr. Magoo.
Like I said,
He's thinking of every chamber of the saxophone that he's going to invent. He just doesn't look where he's saying, whoa, 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 whoa.
it's just Looney Tunes. Yeah. God is the coyote.
Exactly, the precise, like, crisp tenor of a saxophone. And
Yeah, that's why he got the sounds from just all the noises he made during his accidents.
John Coltrane's wailing sax, as you can hear, is that guy, the inventor of it, screaming for dear life.
Just that dude searing his nutsack on some tamper stove. That's a B flat right there.
So
F sharp.
So thus far, he's fallen down 3 flights of stairs, drank acid, swallowed a needle, poisoned himself 3 times by gas chambering himself, and he's been set on fire. That same year, he was struck on the head by a large slate tile, which fell off of a roof, and he was knocked unconscious and then fell into a river.
Oh man, I wish you could study dead brains. Just the trauma that this dude has endured from physical pain affected him psychologically to just downright head trauma.
Oh yeah.
My God.
And also, he fell into the river. It was out cold, and so no one saw this happen. So he floated downstream several miles before a passerby just happened to notice a boy floating face down in a river.
And lived. He Rasputin Jeff Buckley'd out and lived.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Like if Swiss Army Man was an explorer. He woke up floating down the Champs Elysees. I should call this niece.
When asked about her son, her mother said, quote, "He's a child condemned to misfortune. He won't live."
Yeah.
He won't live.
I like how his mom has just accepted that he was just a clumsy fuck that just wasn't built for this world.
This dumb fuck is living on borrowed time.
Right.
Neighbors in the town called him Little Sax, the ghost boy from Dennett.
Good.
They called him the ghost boy.
Well,
The boy who lived. The revenant, if you will.
He had 9 lives like a fucking cat.
Oh, yeah. So
undead sax.
yeah. Somehow surviving childhood, Sax started his musical education in 1828 at the Royal School of Music in Brussels, where he played the flute and the clarinet. After leaving the conservatory, he would follow in his parents' footsteps and would go on to experiment with instrument design himself. At the 1841 Industrial Exposition in Brussels, Adolphe Sax demonstrated one of his own inventions for the first time. The saxophone.
He's 27 now.
Yeah. 27 years old.
This is the second invention after the padded suit.
He invented the squirrel suit.
Original Tony Stark. Just to go to the store.
Has that
My accident
superhero...
suit.
This is a good question. I'm going to ask this next time I see Ron Swallow or Ed Greer. But has the superhero existed who just became a superhero out of necessity because he's such an idiot he keeps getting hurt?
Mr. Glass.
Yeah. He also patented improvements to the design of the bugle and the bass clarinet that are still in use today. So at the time, France is, feeling a little lackluster. So they want to kind of juice up their military bands, and it was kind of spirit of
You know why we're
patriotism.
getting our asses kicked out there?
Yeah, I know.
The music sucks.
Yeah. We're on our 3rd Napoleon. This is terrible.
America's done that stuff like that too.
Oh yeah. So Lieutenant General Count de Rumigny wanted Sax to provide the French army with better instruments. So Sax made the decision to move to Paris, the musical capital of Europe at the time, and despite the general support, the saxophone was considered radical for military bands at the
Still
time.
is.
And there was going to be a war. So they basically had like a contest where Sax comes in from Belgium. So he's kind of like this outsider from the north with his crazy invention.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
is this the same guy who was outside of the 2 Times concert? Being like, this instrument's a little unruly.
It's unruly. Yeah, 100%.
Where you think you are, sir? Now I am kind of picturing just like our use for military bands. Our images come from the 3 guys to the American Revolution.
Oh, fife and drum.
The one on the flute,
Yep.
Yeah,
the one on the drums, and the one carrying the flag.
The flag.
I'm just imagining like another dude there just playing the saxophone from You Belong to the City.
It's like this suddenly became horny.
We're just going into fighting the bridges and like,
Everyone's got muskets drawn fully torqued.
Yeah,
You got a fully
shooting muskets with the fucking night court theme blaring out.
Lord Cornwallis, we can't fight them. We're too horny.
This is outrageous. What is that guy doing with what is that thing?
So the French guys have their idea of how they want the military band to be, and it's basically just make tweaks to make everything louder is kind of their idea. And the main guy doing that is Michel Carafra, and he was kind of supporting the status quo. This is from theindependent.co.uk. In April 1845, a musical showdown was held at Champ du Mars drill grounds in Paris between what was known as the Saxons and the Caravans.
We are sex baba. Fucking battle of the bands at the fort.
And as we always talk about with these stories from the 19th century, you can't imagine how little there was to do at the time.
Everyone
20,000.
smelled
Oh, awful.
like nut cheese.
Oh, yeah. Big time. And it's France, so regular cheese, too.
Yeah. Brie and nut cheese.
Yeah,
It smells
yeah.
like good cheese though.
Yeah.
I think that's how they got away with it. Now that I think about it, that's the French can smell like cheese because they got good cheese over there. So that's why they don't realize they think like this smells like the finest cheese you can get at the store. What are you talking about?
20,000 people showed up for this battle of the
Jesus Christ.
and
to see military bands.
Oh yeah.
Like it's the Sex Pistols and Led Zeppelin.
This is the social event of the season
The Giants Meadowlands Arena.
in our 50-year
Army
lifespan.
bands.
So Sax had planned to use saxophones in his lineup, but unfortunately 7 of the musicians that he had hired failed to turn up. It is believed that they were actually bribed by Carafra to sit out.
Wow.
And it is speculated that Sax actually replaced one of the musicians himself. So he actually put me in, coach, give me the jersey.
People have been backstabbing for military contracts.
Oh, yeah. 100%. That's exactly what this
Even
is.
for the band contract. The Halliburton of fucking army bands. We're gonna pay if you just don't show up, we'll pay you double to just not show up.
Dude.
We need this.
I mean,
Throwing the fight.
so Sax eventually emerged triumphant, and saxophones were introduced permanently into the newly developed marching band formation. So he ends up winning, even though the guy, it's Ben-Hur, even though the guy fucked him with the gimmick chariot there, he still won. Hector Berlioz, who was and I read this, and pretty much everything I read described him as the most controversial composer in France.
Ooh, a bad boy.
He was
He's Phil Spector.
He was the Post Malone of his time. The Machine Gun Kelly of composers.
He was actually an early champion of the saxophone, and so Sax started the production of his instrument in 7 formats, from sopranino to double bass, and it did not take long for composers to start writing parts for these instruments in opera orchestras. Sax sold approximately 20,000 instruments between 1843 and 1860.
You know, if you edit out all the stuff about nut cheese, like music teachers could use this episode.
Oh yeah.
No, leave that in.
Leave it in.
Oh, we got
Children
to.
need hear it.
Kids need to hear it.
Gotta
Yeah.
keep them interested. You got to make it fun.
You got to make life fun.
I mean, kids love jokes about Halliburton. You know, they know what that is. One day, Sax was talking to a friend next to a small container of gunpowder when suddenly it exploded.
You'd figure he's won. He's come out the other side of it. The saxophone has been cemented into the public, the national identity.
It's a wild success.
It's
and
like,
then-
oh, look at this! What is this long fuse to these barrels labeled TNT? Huh? Well, I don't know. I guess I'm a little cold. Maybe I'll light up this match
I
here.
don't know who wrote this, but that was an assassination attempt.
You're right.
Like,
Yeah,
gunpowder doesn't just spontaneously combust in a barrel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, someone tried to kill
Somebody
him.
set that shit off on purpose.
Yeah. So
We're
funny you
introducing the
mention
devil's
that.
instrument. Yeah.
Funny you mention that. I think you're right. You're
That's
exactly
the dude who bribed the band and he still won.
Carafra. Yeah. Sax was thrown nearly 60 feet across the street. His clothes were in shreds, and half of his hair was missing.
He was throwing to give a visual image, when OJ he flies off of the out of the wheelchair a naked gun. That is what the inventor of the saxophone looked
He
like.
came out looking like Ace Ventura when he came back out of the bathroom after the shark attack.
Yes,
His clothes all ripped up,
I
smoking.
mean, this is Daffy Duck.
There was a time in movies where like someone being blown away by an explosion was like badass.
Oh yeah.
But it's so funny. In the Thomas Jane Punisher, it happens. He's on the fucking dock and like he gets exploded by a bunch of barrels. He's like, no! He like gets blown back like 200 feet. Is the funniest moment in cinema of the 2000s.
Sax got lip cancer in 1853.
Like a weird, yeah. No disrespect to anyone with lip cancer, but yeah. He's getting all these odd
He played too much sax.
Clean the mouthpiece, dude.
He probably made the shit out of plutonium or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Oh, Jesus.
He also got lip cancer again in 1858.
So this motherfucker,
He looks like one of the Hellraiser Cenobites at this point. He has just gums.
he got lip cancer in the 1800s.
And he got blown up.
Beat it.
And got blown
And
up.
then got it again. That had to kill him, right?
Nope. Survived both bouts.
Jesus
Wow.
Christ.
And he would keep patenting instruments. He held 47 patents in his lifetime, inventing the sax tromba, the sax horn, the sax tuba, and the 6-piston trombone.
You're going to keep making brass instruments without lips.
Well,
like, allow me to demonstrate. It's beautiful. You are a genius.
his most ambitious design was a massive organ that was to be built on one of the hills overlooking Paris. It was powered by a locomotive steam engine, and he estimated it would be loud enough to make music for the entire city.
The original air raid siren.
Yeah.
Dude,
It didn't work for that, but they turned into the air raid siren. He accidentally invented the tornado warning system.
I mean, kind of.
I mean, like,
Imagine hearing music coming up the top of Red Mountain
Yeah, all
the
day.
way in fucking Gardendale.
it's very apocalyptic.
Like, what is that factory up there? That's actually just one fucking organ.
Huge organ.
This whole episode reminds. If you ever feel like quitting, I mean, you know what I mean. Like this guy spontaneously combusted, was
Seriously.
exploded 8,000 times,
Ate
had
a
no
needle.
lips.
This explains how
Drowned.
people who like are born without arms end up getting a driver's license because
Yeah.
the dudes like him.
Yeah,
Unstoppable.
it's inspiring.
It's just- yeah, I get around on a skateboard, but I'm still somehow a champion fucking cyclist. Even though I was born without a waist down. this motherfucker's been in a coma and he's died 19 times.
He's drowned.
Lost both his lips to cancer, and he's still invented 96 instruments that you have to blow into.
Struck by lightning a million times.
Can't whistle, but you can play the saxophone. That's perseverance, man.
You gotta
The
respect it.
indomitable human spirit.
Oh, yeah. So, for some reason, the gigantic sax organ was never built because somebody was like, hey, that might be annoying to have music going at a level.
That's the ultimate version of fucking someone playing music on their phone without headphones on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the worst.
Motherfucker
It's
just
the
wanted to play
worst.
his music for the entire goddamn town.
You can't work the kinks out.
Like, Paris has never been a small city.
Oh, no.
This motherfucker wanted to play music that you could hear throughout 50,000 square fucking miles.
So while he was recuperating from his first bout of lip cancer, the Crimean War broke out in 1853, and Sax, he didn't just make instruments. He invented a cannon that was naturally called the Saxocannon.
Of course he was.
In his design, the gun was to fire a 500-ton mortar shell 30 feet in diameter.
Jesus Christ.
And Sax claimed that it had the ability to flatten an entire city,
Yeah,
but
this
it was
motherfucker was making anime weapons. 500-ton fucking cannonball, 30 feet in diameter, that could just blow up the whole. That's the original A bomb.
yeah, it was.
Akira shit,
Yeah. He was like, "Fuck you, Sebastopol, you're going down."
Like, is it gonna explode? Like, no, but it will cause a fucking 157-point earthquake on the Richter Richter scale when
Yeah.
this shit lands.
Yeah, and $157 billion to
It's going
build.
to destroy the entire fucking continent.
Yeah. The Crimean Peninsula is just going to go down into the sea. But yeah, they never built the Saxa cannon.
Kenny G has these exact same impulses to build weapons of mass destruction.
Oh man! So the French instrument-making establishment of the mid-19th century hated Sax so much that they formed an alliance against him.
Wow.
And it was called the Association of United Instrument Makers. They claimed his designs were not original, but only slight improvements on existing designs. And they actually elected officers, collected dues, and adopted bylaws with the express purpose of opposing Sax and everything he did. So he has haters to a degree that they have written rules
He's
for their
the John
hatred.
D. Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Instrument makers.
Every hackney-scarred kid playing saxophone, the instrument is not new to hate.
Oh,
Haven't
no.
sold the trumpet in 9 years because of this asshole. Everybody's playing the saxotrump.
Sitting around,
It's just a trumpet with an extra hole in it.
everyone's saxophone. Late at night, I'm just farting into these trumpets to pass the time.
The instrument makers wrecked his factory on a number of occasions. They set it on fire twice. His designs were stolen and his workmen were bribed. His chief assistant was killed, and most people think that Sax was the intended victim. So again, like you said, I'm almost positive the gunpowder was these motherfuckers. Like,
It had to be.
They were trying to kill this guy, but
It
they didn't.
had to be.
They didn't know who they were fucking with. He was
Like,
a
I
man
know,
of
like, the fuck,
destiny.
they weren't just standing there smoking cigarettes. Like, they knew better than that. Somebody shot that motherfucker from 50 yards away.
Yeah. Well, it is France, so we can't rule out the cigarettes. That's their thing.
They smoke like chimneys.
So Sax did not take any of this lying down. He was very litigious, suing all the haters. Instrument makers would question the legitimacy of his patents, and he'd sue them, and he'd often win, but the legal costs caused him to go bankrupt in 1852.
Absolutely.
Emperor Napoleon III was an admirer of Sax and stepped in personally to prevent the second bankruptcy, but soon he was gone, and we'd be on to the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, and so he went bankrupt again in 1873 and again in 1877. The last bankruptcy resulted in him being ejected from his factory and his materials and instruments sold at auction. So now he's broke. He would go on making instruments in a series of partnerships for another 10 years, but never got back to his former glory. Died of pneumonia in Paris, February 7th, 1894, living in poverty at the time, and was interred at the cemetery at Montmartre.
He finally mercifully died.
Yeah. Well, it died of just like the thing everyone died of in those days. Like,
Yeah.
not even special. Survived everything and then tapped out to pneumonia, but oh well.
That's wild.
To the sniffles.
This is from the independent.co.uk, just a little epilogue. Following Sax's death, the saxophone had a less than auspicious start to the 20th century. In 1903, Pope Pius X was so alarmed by the incursion of the sax into sacred music that he issued a prohibition against its use that still stands today.
Who would have ever thought the saxophone was the original rock and roll?
I mean, yeah.
Because it makes people horny. Anything that makes people horny is the devil's work.
It's a no
And that is what, the Pope saw that.
Oh yeah.
He saw people just getting rock hard boners to classical sax music.
Its reputation fared little better in America. The Ladies' Home Journal went so far as to accuse it of rendering listeners incapable of distinguishing between good and evil.
Yeah. You get a boner and you punch your mom in the face and you're like,
It's just wet pussies and hard dicks all over the place. All because of some instrument.
from the most cursed man of all time.
Yeah.
Like it's a cursed instrument.
I mean, God did everything he could to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And yet ska still happened.
gotta watch that third wave, you know.
That's it.
The Nazis banned it as an instrument of decadent American music. Stalin despised the saxophone. He called it a symbol of capitalist oppression, and
Jesus.
he banned it and sent its players to Siberia. So if you were playing the sax in Stalin's Russia, you could get on the train, bud.
Tell you what, man. I'm going to listen to Blue Train by John Coltrane after
Yeah,
this
right.
shit, dude.
Blast it.
I mean, that makes sense, man. You know, the French, they invented existentialism and fucking democracy.
Yep.
And the saxophone.
You can't, yeah, everybody, if you're a fucking leader like Stalin and the boys. You're a dictator. Of course you hate everything French.
The ban on saxophone performance in some Eastern Bloc countries remained until the 1980s.
Wow.
So this was I mean, George Michael was really testing the limits of
That's
Soviet
why
era.
in the 80s, all those fucking videos had like some dude playing sax in some metal factory by himself. Just a leather vest and sparks flying off the place.
Yeah. Tell Jerry Rafferty to get out or we kill him.
Adolphe Sax was fucking Hephaestus.
Oh, God. Yeah. So, anyway, that's Adolphe Sax. Man after my own heart. You
I
know?
love that dude.
Yeah, Jesus, man.
Sources on that, independent.co.uk, mileskington.com, scoopwhoop.com, and melmagazine.com.
The European Sam Patch.
I know, yeah.
fucking love it.
I keep finding those guys. Oh, my God.